Hello and welcome to our news bulletin right here on Luntha television. And today you are with me, Patrick Pupa. First, the headlines. Catholic Church in Tanzania condemns the killing of protesters following disputed election. Senior Resident Magistrate Court in Lilongwe to rule on suspected panga warding thugs, fifth bail bid on Wednesday. Minister of Justice clarifies compensation concerns in the June 10th plane crash case. And in international news, senior Tanzanian opposition leaders released on bail, party confirmed. Archbishop Jude Thaddeus Ruwachi of Dar es Salaam has condemned the recent post-election virus in Tanzania, describing it as abomination before God and a deep wound to the nation's conscience. Speaking during a special mass held on 9 November in honor of the victims and their families, Archbishop Ruwachi lamented that the bloodshed does not reflect on the true face of Tanzania. The liturgy was celebrated following an invitation to prayer by the Archdiocese of Dar es Salaam as the country continues to grapple with the aftermath of the October general election. We have a Vatican News report read by Fales Kizombe.
The disputed results have sparked widespread protests, with demonstrators alleging electoral irregularities. Though official figures have not been released, some reports suggest that hundreds have been killed in the ensuing variants. The punishment for protesting is not being short, the Archbishop said during his homily. Some have even been killed in their homes. He further noted that the nation had lost its dignity and its vision of justice, calling on leaders and citizens alike to restore peace through righteousness and wisdom. Justice is the foundation of peace, urging Tanzanians to reflect deeply on whether they possess the wisdom needed for reconciliation. Meanwhile, a diocesan mass was also celebrated at the Church of Our Lady of Fatima in Mawenja, Mbeya, presided over by Archbishop Gervas Nyaisonga. In his homily, he called on the injured and brave to forgive and rebuild. Furthermore, he said they must begin again, not as cowards but as brave people ready to rebuild what has been destroyed for the sake of present and future generations. Archbishop Nyaisonga said. The Mass in Mbeya had 6 main intentions: to pray for the souls of those who died, for the healing of the injured, for the discovery of the missing, for comfort to those who lost property, for the nation's reflection on its moral state, and for divine healing and reconciliation. Archbishop Nyaisonga also appealed to the nation leaders to embrace humility. Across the country, Catholics gathered in solidarity to pray for peace, healing, and justice.
Senior Resident Magistrate Court in Lilongwe will deliver its ruling on Wednesday on a bail application by 8 accused persons, which include Mono Makina, who are answer unlawful wounding charges in connection to the disruption of civil servants' protest in Lilongwe in March. The magistrate, Precious Kondowe, made the adjudgment after hearing state denial to the bail application by bringing an investigator who told the court that if released on bail, it would not be in the interest of justice. But insisting on the application, one of the defense lawyer, George Jefferson Kadzipachike, says the accused both stays in Lilongwe and cannot run away. He explains to our reporter, Robert Edward.
The point that the state is abusing its authority because the accused persons are being arrested, rearrested, now and again. We have the view that this is abuse of court process, it is abuse of authority, because the offences over which our clients are being arrested are substantially the same offences. So there was no need for them to be arrested. Now and again, that's abuse of authority. We have told the court that our clients have permanent places of abode within Lilongwe. They have their families, they have their businesses within the city, and they will not jump bail if bail is granted to them. So the point that we have made before the court is that the court should consider granting them bail, because even the other courts, we have made 4 applications, and this is the 5th application for bail. So courts of the same jurisdiction have already granted the accused persons bail. So it would not make any point if this particular court denied the bail on the accused persons. That's true. We have noticed that the charge that has been read out for the accused persons is a trumped-up charge. How can 8 accused persons, for example, be alleged to have used one panga knife to harm a person? So it's very clear on the face of it that the charges that have been leveled against the 8 accused persons are trumped-up charges.
Minister of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining, Jean Matanga, has assured Malawians that the ongoing fuel shortages will ease by the end of this week, as 92 trucks of fuel are expected to arrive in the country between Tuesday and Friday. She made the assurance in Parliament on Tuesday when she presented a ministerial statement addressing the current fuel and power challenges. Chalile Chiranga with the details.
Matanga said government is expecting about 45 trucks of fuel to arrive on Tuesday alone, with a total of 92 trucks expected in the country by Friday, translating to about 3.2 million liters. She said the ministry is working to ensure a steady supply of fuel beyond this week. Matanga explained that Malawi's fuel situation has been worsened by foreign exchange challenges and the absence of strategic fuel reserves, resulting in a hand-to-mouth supply system where all imported fuel goes straight to filling stations for immediate use. Matanga said her ministry is working closely with the Reserve Bank, Ministry of Finance and multilateral partners to secure the needed forex for fuel imports and to build strategic reserves. On energy, the minister said government is addressing the power outages affecting the nation. She disclosed that spare parts for the malfunctioning Unit 5 at the Dzani 3 power station, responsible for the loss of 31 megawatts, have been procured and are expected to arrive by the end of November. The unit is said to be operational again by December 2025. Matanga added that government is also adding 10 megawatts from Salima Solar and another 10 megawatts from biomass generation in Chikangawa, while plans are underway to import 50 megawatts from Mozambique by February 2026. She further announced that through a World Bank-funded project, Malawi is expected to add over 350 megawatts to the national grid once construction of the Kamamba hydropower station begins in 2026.
In our filling stations, I just want to assure them that that issue is going to be over come Friday. Because as we speak today, we're expecting to receive about 45 trucks. And between today and Friday, there'll be a total of 92 trucks, and that is translating into 3,200 million liters. And of course, after that, we aim at maintaining the flow. We are working on making sure that there is no gap. There should be a steady flow of fuel.
Responding to the statement, a leader of opposition Simprex Chirabanda urged the government to fully utilize the land provided by the Mozambican government to the National Oil Company of Malawi NOCMA to improve fuel shortage and distribution. He also raised concerns over the automatic pricing mechanism APM for fuel, warning that poor management of the system could trigger price instability and push up the cost of basic commodities.
The government had already given us land. It was given to NOCMA, and that this government would actually capitalize on the land that is already given to us to sort out some of the issues as raised in the statement. Secondly, I talked about the automatic price mechanism, which does mean that prices of fuel will not be static.
Malawians have in recent months been grappling with persistent fuel shortages and prolonged power blackouts, which have disrupted businesses, transport services and household livelihoods across the country. The government hopes the arrival of more fuel consignments and increased power generation efforts will help stabilize the situation.
Malawi, together with SADC partners, is taking steps to address inefficiencies at border posts that have stalled trade, using insights from a recent time-release study to guide improvements in clearance processes and infrastructure. Speaking during the time-release study, report dissemination for one-stop Mwanza border held at Sunbed Capital Hotel in Lilongwe, Director of Trading Services in the Ministry of Industrialization, Business, Trade and Tourism, Catherine Chidima, acknowledged the challenges but said the ministry is actively working to resolve them. She explained that the study highlights areas for improvement, enabling the government to enhance staff capacity, streamline processes and invest in infrastructure to ensure faster and more efficient import and export operations. We have the report filed by Gift Kalonga.
Chidima said that while inefficiencies exist, the ministry is actively addressing them, emphasizing that the time-release study highlights areas for improvement, helping the government to enhance trade facilitation, staff capacity, and infrastructure to ensure faster and more efficient import and export processes.
The inefficiencies are there indeed, but there are things that we are working on. We've been working like that without that time release study, which has now portrayed the weaknesses that we had, because we thought we were improving after the coordinated border management system.
Senior Programs Officer for the SADC Secretariat, Asidas Monteiro, noted that Malawi currently accounts for 22% of regional trade, below the desired 40% target. He said efforts are underway to boost intra-SADC trade, attract foreign investment, remove non-tariff barriers, and modernize border facilities to meet increasing trade demands while supporting the region's industrialization strategy.
The SADC regional trade now, the study indicates that we stood at 22% of the inter-SADC trade, but our desire is to be at the 40% of inter-SADC trade.
Commissioner for Customs, Cornelius Kakwesa, said the Malawi Revenue Authority uses risk management and an authorized economic operators scheme to speed up clearance for compliant traders. He added that delays often arise from unmanifested goods and the involvement of multiple institutions at the borders, which the ministry is also addressing.
The other thing that is causing the delays is the unmanifested goods, the matola, which is aggravated by the drivers and the transporters themselves. So we may clear the goods that are the main consignment within an hour, or within 30 minutes, or within 3 hours. But
meanwhile, the Ministry of Meanwhile, the Ministry of Industrialization, Business, Trade and Tourism has urged collaboration with various stakeholders to ensure more efficient border operations. For Luntha News, this is Gift Kalonga.
Minister of Justice Charles Mhango has clarified that compensation for families affected by the plane crash that claimed the life of former Vice President Dr. Salos Claus Chirima and 8 others on June 10, 2024 will not form part of his ministry's review, saying such matters fall under insurance arrangements and relevant government departments. He was responding to concerns from the Member of Parliament from Mchinji Northeast, Anthony Masamba, about compensation to the orphan families in Parliament on Tuesday. Chalida Chiranga with the details.
Mhango said although his ministry is reviewing 3 reports related to the plane crash, issues of compensation are not within the scope of the review process. Among other things, he explained that he has received and is examining 3 reports: the interim report from German investigators, the report from the Commission of Inquiry established by former President Lazarus Chakwera, and the final report from Germany before submitting his official opinion to President Professor Thabita Mutharika. Mhango said should his ministry discover any elements of criminality, bad governance or misconduct in the reports, he will make ministerial recommendations to the President.
You recall when I last spoke here, I said I was told that there were 3 reports. I wasn't sure about the 3rd one. Now I can confirm to the nation that I've got 3 reports. The first report I have on my desk is the interim report from German investigators. The second report that I have is the report on the Commission of Inquiry. And the 3rd report that I have is the full report from the Germans, the final report. So those are the reports which I'm considering, and I'm looking and I'm reviewing so that I can give my opinion to His Excellency the President.
However, Mchinji Northeast Member of Parliament Anthony Masamba has urged government to prioritize compensation for the bereaved families, arguing that many of the victims were breadwinners serving in government when the tragedy occurred.
I made a contribution towards the plane crash. We know the members of Parliament have been pushing for a fresh investigation into the crash. I agree with the fresh investigation because there are a lot of mismatch in terms of facts, what happened, where, and who did what. But while we are pushing for the fresh investigation, we are also pushing for the compensation to the bereaved family. I lost a brother in that plane crash. Lucas, who was until his death Assistant Commissioner of Police. He had 3 kids. One of them was just graduated, and the other 2 are still in Sunday school. We are pushing for the compensation because he was a breadwinner. He had kids that was looking after, and a family that was depending on him. So while we are pushing for the fresh investigation, we believe these bereaved families must be taken care of.
Members of Parliament continue to push for a fresh investigation into the June 10, 2024 Shikangawa plane crash. Meanwhile, Leader of Parliament Japi Mhango has advised parliamentarians to refrain from debating the issue further, pending the submission of a full report by the Minister of Justice.
In case you are just joining us, remember you are watching News Bulletin right here on Luntha Television, and you are with me, Patrick Pupa. But before we proceed, a reminder of our top stories.
Catholic condemns the killing of protesters following disputed election. Senior Resident Magistrate Court in Lilongwe to rule on suspected panga wielding thugs, fifth bail bid on Wednesday. Minister of Justice clarifies compensation concerns in the June 10th plane crash case. And in international news, senior Tanzanian opposition leaders released on bail, party confirmed.
Welcome back. And good governance and political experts have called on government to take urgent and decisive measures to address the ongoing fuel, food and electricity crisis that have gripped the country, warning that continuing inaction could lead to social unrest and economic collapse. The experts say corruption, poor governance and years of policy have deepened the crisis, leaving Malawians vulnerable and the economy unstable. They have urged President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika's administration to translate its promises into tangible reforms that restore confidence and productivity. Judith Ogan has more in this report.
Governance experts Benedicto Kondowe said the current economic challenges reflect deep-rooted corruption and weak institutional oversight. He stressed that Malawi's economy cannot recover unless government address governance failures that have crippled productivity and revenue collection. Kondowe noted that the ongoing fuel shortages have severely affected national productivity, reducing Malawi Revenue Authority collections and undermining public service delivery, including salaries for teachers and the availability of drugs in hospitals. He commended the president for introducing austerity measures but urged stronger actions against corruption and greater transparency across public institutions.
It is very evident. If you see long queues, they are as a result of corruption and poor governance. So it is a very, very sad tale in as far as the economic and governance foundation this country is concerned. Very much so, because the fuel is the engine of the economy and the everyday life of every single Malawian. When people spend more time on the queue rather than being in the office, it also affects productivity. And once productivity is affected, it means that MRA cannot collect as much.
Political experts Chimwemwe Mtsitsi shared similar concerns, saying the crisis stems from long-standing neglect in economic management by both current and past administrations. He said while some challenges are global, governments must caution citizens from their impacts through sound policies and better coordination between political leaders and technocrats. Mtsitsi warned that if the crisis continues without visible improvements, Malawi risks political instability as citizens may lose patience with unfulfilled campaign promises. He emphasized the need for collective problem solving and long-term economic planning to prevent the situation from spiraling further.
It is a reflection of not only be attributed to the current regime or indeed the government that has just left power, but it's something that may have been there for decades. So I think it's high time that politicians sat down and critically looked at the issues together with the technocrats at Capitol Hill and find lasting solutions to the problems. Much as we acknowledge, as said by the former regime.
Both experts stress that addressing corruption, improving accountability, and strengthening key oversight institutions, Corruption Bureau, the Malawi Human Rights Commission, and Parliament are crucial steps toward restoring good governance and public trust. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Judith Ogan.
The Minister of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare has expressed satisfaction with the progress of adult literacy education, saying the program is improving people's lives across the country. According to Minister of Public Relations Officer Pauline Kaude, the National Adult Literacy Education Strategy has played a key role in enhancing the effectiveness of adult education initiatives nationwide. Emmanuel Chocha reports.
In an interview, Kaude said the ministry is working tirelessly to ensure that the strategy is fully implemented and achieve its intended goals of empowering adults through education. She explained that the establishment of community learning centers across the country has provided adults with access to basic education and skill training, helping many to improve their livelihood. Kaude further commended DVVI International and UNESCO for their continued support in strengthening adult literacy program, particularly through capacity building and resource provision.
There's a good progress as compared to the past, because now Malawi has got a national the 7. Yeah, sure. So of course having documents is not enough, but implementation. So there's a good approach to implementation, because the strategic plan encourages the coordination among stakeholders in adult learning and education, this civil society organizations, NGOs, and the government.
DVVI International Program Coordinator Dyson Ntawanji said there has been remarkable progress in adult literacy education, noting that many men and women are now attending classes in districts such as Dowa, Nchewu, and Mchinji. However, Ntawanji pointed out that the sector still faces challenges, especially in terms of inadequate infrastructure, and appealed to government and other stakeholders to provide more support. Both the ministry and its partners emphasize that continued collaboration, investments, and community participation are essential to sustain the gains made so far and ensure that every adult in Malawi has access to education and lifelong earning opportunities.
And finally, in international news, police in Tanzania have released 4 senior opposition leaders who were arrested over their alleged involvement in last month's deadly protest following the general election, the opposition party Chadema confirmed. The protests, which erupted after the disrupted polls, have plunged Tanzania into one of its worst political crises in decades. According to Chadema and several human rights activists, more than 1,000 people were killed by security forces during the unrest. We have Reuters news report read by Fales Chizombe.
The government of President Samia Suluhu Hassan, who was declared the winner with nearly 98% of the vote, dismissed those figures as exaggerated but has yet to provide its own death toll. Among those released on bail is Chadema Vice Chairman John Heche, who was arrested on October 22nd and questioned on terrorism-related charges, according to his lawyer. Also freed was Amani Golungwa, the party's Deputy Secretary General, who had been detained over the weekend. Earlier this year, Chadema leader Tundu Lissu was charged with treason after being excluded from the presidential ballot, an event widely seen as a key trigger for the protests. Last Friday, prosecutors charged at least 145 people with treason and more than 170 others with various protest-related offenses. President Hassan's government has faced mounting criticism from opposition groups and civil society organizations for allegedly suppressing dissent and abducting government critics. Observers from the African Union also said the election fell short of democratic standards. While President Hassan has rejected accusations of human rights abuses and defended the credibility of the polls, she did order an investigation into reports of abductions last year. However, no findings from that probe have yet been made public.
With that report also brings us to the end of our today's bulletin. But before I go, top stories once again.
Catholic Church in Tanzania condemns the killing of protesters following disputed election. Senior Resident Magistrate Court in Lilongwe to rule on suspected panga warding thugs. Fifth bail bid on Wednesday. Minister of Justice clarifies compensation concerns in the June 10th plane crash case. And in international news, senior Tanzanian opposition leaders released on bail, party confirmed.
You have been with me, Patrick Pooper. Thanks for the pleasure of your company, and continue watching Luntha television, and goodbye for now.